So sometimes when I start talking about scholarly sources, sometimes students express confusion over terms like reliable and scholarly or reputable and credible, and whether all those terms mean the same thing. They don't mean all the same thing, so we're going to talk about some distinctions. Many sources, like newspapers and magazines, are described as reputable. That's largely based on the reputation of the publication itself. For example, is the newspaper well known for having good practices around journalistic integrity and ethical reporting? Whether or not a source is credible largely depends on the author. Whether the author is a person or an organization, are they known as an expert on the topic? For example, a well-known researcher on a topic could write a blog post about it, and that would still be considered credible, even though it wasn't published in a scholarly journal or a reputable publication. Keep in mind, though, that a blog post probably wouldn't be the best source to cite for your paper. Chances are that expert who is credible has also written about that topic before, either in a book or a scholarly journal article, and that source would be considered more reputable than a blog post. Finally, as we've learned, scholarly sources are sources that are written by an expert in the field and are usually published in publications like scholarly journals, academic books, or sometimes presented at conferences. Reputable, credible, and scholarly sources are all considered reliable. What I want you to take away from the chart on the screen is that there will be occasions where unscholarly sources will be considered reliable, and that occasionally even scholarly sources will be unreliable. Some things are both obviously unscholarly and unreliable. Being a mom, I immediately think of Facebook posts that talk about the safety of vaccines. Misinformation about vaccines thrives on social media. But that doesn't mean that everything you see on social media is going to be unreliable. So for example, tweets are generally considered unscholarly, but they can be reliable. For example, if the National Hurricane Weather Center sent out a tweet that said everyone should evacuate because a hurricane was coming, hopefully we would all listen to them. The vast majority of scholarly journal articles and scholarly sources will be reliable. So my example here is a peer-reviewed journal article about coronavirus statistics. However, there are rare occasions when even scholarly sources can get it wrong and can be unreliable. Perhaps one of the most notorious examples of this is Andrew Wakefield's article on vaccines that appeared in The Lancet, which is a very highly regarded and reputable journal. That article was later retracted, but it was the source of a lot of modern misinformation about vaccines. The big key takeaway here is that each source needs to be evaluated individually to determine both its reliability and scholarliness.